Hello everybody and welcome back inside the box for another episode of Gunpla Kitbash with me, Kukamatsu. In this episode we'll do a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to clean up some seam lines from the original kit parts and then add some detail on the surface, some greebling. So let's jump right in. Okay, I think we're on the final stretch of the modifications for this kit. I had considered making the arms longer at one point, but actually I think they look pretty good on the overall mobile suit, so I'm going to leave them like that. One thing about these older kits, they often do have pretty big seam lines that need to be fixed. I'm going to go ahead and do this one to start. I think this kit is 2001, so it's a 20-year-old kit, so actually pretty amazing considering how old it is. And I'm going to do some repair on the, I don't know what you call that, the cable parts. So this just pulls off easily enough, and it'll be easy to put back on even though I'll be gluing the two parts together. I'm going to start with this, the Tamiya extra thin cement, and the reason for that is I think I can get it to melt the plastic a little bit, and then if I squeeze it hard enough it might get a fairly good seal of that seam and it won't have to do too much filling. That's the hope. Sometimes that works. Sometimes there's still a little bit left to do after. This is quite a big surface, so we will see how it goes. I'm going to start by giving a generous amount of the cement on the edges to get it melting. Get it together there, and then I'm going to add some more that will wick into that seam, and then give it a good squeeze. And hopefully it will really bond. Sometimes if you squeeze it hard enough, you can actually see some of the plastic squish out there. But this is such a big part. Oh, it's doing a little bit down there. You've probably noticed if you've been following along that I tend to prefer using the super glue for just about everything. And even in this case, you know, I debated just super gluing it together. There are a couple of reasons for that. One is just simply that the super glue dries way faster, and that allows me to just keep on moving forward with stuff. I mean, this stuff doesn't take too long, but certainly when you're doing a lot of gluing, a lot of back and forth, you want it to be as quick as possible, so even a little bit faster ends up being a lot of time saving. The other reason is I don't really like the smell of the cement, and I do try to avoid using solvents generally just because of the smell. I don't want to be wearing a mask all the time, and if I can use things that don't have a smell, all the better. The activator does have a bit of a smell. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't know, to be honest, what the health implications of that stuff are, but that's generally my thinking behind using the super glue for most things. It's more of a personal preference thing. Well, overall it's looking pretty good, but I can tell there are a few spots where it didn't quite seal the gap. There wasn't enough to sand away to leave a smooth surface, so I am going to have to do a little touch up with the super glue. Okay, there we go. It's looking pretty good, feeling pretty nice. Pretty confident about that. I also want to do some repair work on the rings of the cable. They all have a seam line, and I did a little bit of damage when I was trimming off the nubs, so I just want to make sure that they're looking good. So I'm just going to do some sanding. I mounted them all onto a bunch of these sticks, and I'm just going to go one at a time, and hopefully I don't need to do too much filling. I'm hoping that it's mostly sanding, but some of the divots might need a little touch up. We'll see. I just had a thought about how I could make this faster. I'm just going to stick this in my Dremel. I'd say that's looking pretty good. I'm going to do that with all of them. Way more successful with a shorter stick. Well, now that I've done the seam filling on the pauldrons and some general cleanup of the cable stuff, I'm ready to do a little bit of surface detailing, some greebling. I don't want to do too much. I think the overall design is working pretty well. I don't want to add a ton of busy detail. I've gone through my Kitbash stuff and pulled out a bunch of stuff that I thought might be good candidates for what I want to do today. A lot of this stuff is from tank models, 1/48 scale. I think some of it's from a Flak 88 model. Not totally sure because I have it all mixed up in a bunch of boxes now. I know that I definitely want to use these little hooks. I think that gives it a nice realism. Anytime you have some kind of heavy armor like this, you're at some point going to need to be able to pick it up with a crane, and so to have little hooks in at the top makes a lot of sense to me. And then beyond that, we'll just play with what I have here and try it in different places and see what works. I'm going to try this with the Tamiya extra thin cement since it's polystyrene and polystyrene and see how it goes. Okay, well that sets. Let's take a look at the arms and see if there's anything in here that might look good with them. Kind of like that on there. Take that top bit off and the bottom nub off. It's a nice extra detail. One isn't bad, and I have 4 of these. Maybe you could sit right on the edge. It doesn't quite go on there because of the curved surface, but I do like it also on this flat part here. Cool, I think that adds just a nice little level of detail to that. For these spaces in the skirt, I was thinking of using these, which are essentially the same part except from a Zaku 2. If I can trim it down and then sort of get it sitting under there, there's a seam line in this already, so I'll just cut straight down that with the razor saw. It actually fits quite nicely, just kind of like this. Cool, I think that's working pretty well. That worked out so well, I think I'll do the same thing on the back. I'm just using the other half of the ones that I cut. You can kind of see it's like an expansion of the existing one there. Okay, there it is assembled again. I think it's looking pretty cool. Really happy with those filled spaces in particular. You know, you might be wondering why I'm not doing more greebling over the surface, adding more detail. My philosophy is that less is more in this case. It's such a strong mobile suit design to begin with. I've done a lot of proportional changes. I'm going to add decals, I'm going to do weathering and all that kind of stuff. So there's going to be more levels of detail coming. So I don't want to go overboard. I really think that simpler is better. So with that, I'm going to say the build is complete and it's ready for paint. And that is the end of the episode. In the next episode, painting. So if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you give me a like down below. Check out the playlist for previous videos. Subscribe if you want to follow along, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.